Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Hello and happy Easter to everyone out there. I hope you're enjoying it with your families and having big, giant Easter egg hunts and all that good stuff. It was a beautiful day out there, at least here on the East Coast. I don't know about everywhere else, but I am hoping that the Easter Bunny brought you some candy or some sex, one or the other. Yeah, it could be you have no children, it's just you and your partner. Enjoy the Easter holiday. Which brings us to what we're going to talk about today. Why not? Let's turn the rabbit into that little sexual being that it is. And we all know the saying, and I cannot promote profanity on here, but like rabbits. And, how did it become such a sex symbol, or at least referred to in that manner? I know way, way long ago, some odd centuries ago, or shall we say decades, let's go with that. They used rabbits to determine if women were pregnant. The poor rabbit would die. That was the sad story until, they actually came up with pregnancy tests. So with even bunnies. But yes, bunnies, our little rabbit, cute, furry friends, do have a lot of sex. And you know that just rabbits or hares, whatever you want to call them, and they're usually connected to intercourse. Come on, people. Just having them there generally means that you are going to have sex. You are going to get what you want. They make vibrators called the rabbit with little bunny ears and stuff. And what does it do? It goes extremely fast. Has that sexual connotation there. But really, how did this little itty bunny turn into an expression of near rabbit lost in potency, where it is related sexually? Well, come on, let's look at this. The biology of rabbits, we got to look at that first. Now, bunnies like sex. We're going to call it intercourse. They love sex. They like to hump, if you want to call it that. And they enjoy it a heck of a lot. Pretty close with I don't even know if humans even fall onto that particular scale, shall I say? But rabbits like it. Actually, female rabbits can frequently achieve that intimate readiness, and really at a very early age do they hit their sexual maturity, 4 months. It also, their mating sessions includes numerous sessions of mounting, which, can be about 30 seconds in each time of having sex. However, this, ferocity and quick lovemaking, as they call it, that is frequent without doubt, of course, contributed toward the idea that rabbits are to make use of the state term sex crazed. Now, the reproductive procedure for rabbits, or how do they reproduce? Obviously, we know how females reproduce. Okay, it's not an unknown thing. However, the reproductive procedure for rabbits, it actually lends itself to, recommendations to fertility and intimate strength, believe it or not. As soon as that female rabbit gets pregnant, only just simply take 28 to 32 times before having a baby, or having a little itty bitty bunny, to a small amount of 1 to 14 kits, because little bunny babies are called kits. And infant bunnies, baby bunnies, they're so cute. Believe it or not, they have a lot of kids. They have a lot of kits. They're kids. They are also really effective at superfetation. And this is an event by which one littler of kits could be gestating prior to the other little kit that are even created. So they're having so much sex that the female bunny is probably already pregnant. So they're constantly sort of getting pregnant. Yes, it does happen in females, but that's a very rare thing to happen. They are so sexually, their bodies, because they're such at a young age when they become sexually mature, they are literally having one litter after another litter after another litter. And this is before they even completely wean off the first litter. So it's really interesting. Now there's, we kind of put all this in connection with fertility and sexual intercourse, and we've been doing this for so long. There's a hare. Oh, there's the bunny, the rabbit. Did the and the jokes go back so far? Did the rabbit die? And things even though we don't use it anymore, it is something that is still referenced, shall I say. The regular intercourse plus the sheer amounts of kits that they have, the huge litters that they have, one after another, obviously produce an enormous amount of little babies and a bunch of little rabbits. Now, this even paved just how for rabbits base fertility gods in a few countries. So, Aztec mythology speaks, where it's associated with the Zan Totochten, a big word for me. And this is a collective of 400 divine rabbits that will meet up to possess drunken bodies. Obviously, those are actually called orgies, and everybody knows that. Now, led by Omi Tochtili, a fertility god of intoxication. So this is going back in time. We're talking a little about the history of the little bunny became such this sexual reference and this sexual mammal, basically. Now, the Aztecs knew exactly what made for a fascinating celebration. Orgies. Can't doubt them for that. And obviously to the goddess Aphrodite. When it comes to Greek culture, the association between rabbits and Amor is made as well. Obviously, a result of this is where rabbits were often sacrificed to Aphrodite as a kind of prayer. Yeah. Love, sex, babies. You just love them. You don't sit there and look at them that way. You just all of a sudden go to the reference of what rabbits represent and the way their sexuality is. It is actually nocturnal. So, which is a trip, because here we are thinking it's all the time, but it's kind of sort of the activity which is like nocturnal, which is sex, just is related to having sex at night, and it's the only time we're supposed to have it, which is not true anymore. Connecting them to like secret and also the realms associated with the moons and medieval culture. These rabbits go way back. And then they tied them to the cycles of females in some way as they menstruated, and further reinforced notions that rabbits dictated fertility or were otherwise linked to it. Hence, them using rabbits decades ago as pregnancy tests. And that link has stuck. And it continues to stick, basically. Obviously, we're in medieval times now, where medieval hunters also thought that the only explanation rabbits could actually be hunted to really extra ended up being of their exceptionally high reproductive prices. So they were actually sold or caught, hunted, sold for the price, just for their reproductive purposes. And it was a big, money thing, because we're going to talk about their anatomy a little later. Well, in the next segment. How's that one sound? Now, because of this high price on the rabbit, the quest for rabbits and hares into the search also had links that are poetic. The quest for sexual interest. Lots. There's a lot of innuendos that go along with it. A lot of ancient times. The ancients actually believed that rabbits were hermaphrodites in earlier Western history. And it was the only method that they could justify that rabbits were like having tons and tons of sex and tons of kids. That's how, this is where we go when we start to try and explain how sexuality in different species really works. And it, believe it or not, for Christianity, it was an indication that rabbits had been effective at virgin births. And this really securely linked the rabbits because of the Virgin Mary in signs of rebirth and purity. So, in every religion, every time rabbit is linked sexually to it. Now, this is really why rabbits are associated with Easter. Hence, Easter. What do you do with Easter? Eggs. What are eggs? They're the indication of fertility and rebirth. Is it all coming down now? And when it comes to Christianity or, the Catholic religion, on Easter is when Christ was resurrected. And I'm not going to get into a lot of religion because I'm not really a religious person, but just to put it into that frame of mind and how we are looking at this, a lot of Renaissance paintings, there's a lot of experience of a bunny or hare with the reason. And this is why this is all here. You see the naked women in the pictures, in the Renaissance pictures and stuff like that. Has a lot to do with the fertility, has a lot to do with anything with eggs, basically. So, on that thought, in that process, a little bit of history about our little bunny friends there. I'm going to take my first break in the show where you guys can get a drink, get a snack, come back, get relaxed, get out your little Easter eggs or your Easter bunny, and, we can think about some sexual things that go along with it when I come back. So I definitely will meet you back here for more Sex Talk with Andra, where we're talking about Easter and Easter bunny sex.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back from our little break. And we are talking, because it is Easter, a little adult bunny talk. Talking about the sexuality, the sexual habits of rabbits, and the little innuendos that we have been using every time we see those little furry creatures, which are really, really cute. Obviously, we're thinking about something else. So, just, we're talking a little history, and, there's a lot of history out there where rabbits have been at the center of the topic when it comes to sex. A little bit of contradiction also. On the other hand, there always is, where rabbits have been associated with intimate freedom as well as insatiable intimate appetite. But we all know that. With that, there obviously is that association with purity and virginity, trying to keep the purity of the female sex, so to speak, or all sex in question. But always a lot of these are depicted in paintings, and obviously the bunny as a pious motherly figure. And it runs hand in hand or simultaneously, deploying it usually to indicate desire that is of a sexual nature. Da, da, da. But think about it here. When you think of bunnies, you think of sex. So we're going to go and talk about a little bit of anatomy, shall I say, of the little rabbit. Now, doing it like rabbits is generally not exactly what we say, but for purposes of PG-13, we need to ask, how often are they having sex? Well, remember, bunnies, female bunnies, are sexually reaching puberty at 4 months. They stop very, very young. And, you can't do that. Humans can't do that. Although, not legally. And I'm not going to get in that, nor do I condone that. So, think about that. We got sexual toys coined after them. So, we are going to go over the basics when it comes to sexing rabbits, and this is basically identifying them as a buck or a doe, which is buck is the male and doe is the female, just like with deer. So, big animal to be referenced in the little tiny, tiny one. And you can usually identify it. There are a lot of things out there. And a lot of, it's funny because how it's really explained is, you can usually do a good job of identifying a buck from a doe, at least from the age of 3 weeks and on. So really, really early. An older buck is easy to identify. The head and body is generally more blocky than the doe. Does the medium and large breeds often develop a fold skin under their chins, which is another way to identify them. But we are getting down to the good parts, telling females and males and all that good stuff. A buck's testicles can be seen on a hot day. How interesting is that? When they sweat, I guess. They get hot, they fall out. I don't know. The testicles must be kept at a certain temperature in order for sperm to be produced. So this is why they are out on a hot day. It's warming up those little spermies, those little bunny sperms. The testicles descend further on hot days and are brought back toward the body on cool days because your body temperature is warmer. Pretty interesting there. And this way, the temperature is regulated and their for their sperm to grow properly. Interesting. Now, when you're determining the sex of an older rabbit from a distance, believe it or not, this is actually easy to do. And we are just going to talk about our sexual definitions with the rabbit. Anus, obviously, with every body, or most animals, the round opening at the rearmost area of the rabbit on the belly side. Interesting. And it's next to the tail. That's why there are butt plugs made of a bunny pom-pom. its purpose is actually to eliminate solid waste, which everybody knows because everybody does it. In other words, it's where the poop comes out. I love it. Obviously, like everybody else on it has germs and all that good stuff. Buck, the male rabbit, you know that, because I told you. Doe, the female rabbit. Now, we're going to get on to the penis. Ha, the good stuff. The male's sexual organ is located next to the anus. Not one side to the other side, right next to the little stinky hole. And it's a little further away from the tail, obviously. Cylindrical and say, which we all know because we all have that, so we don't need to know that. It actually has a dual purpose, just like everybody else. So they're pretty much close to humans here with some of the things that come out. And believe it or not, the urine is normally sanitary, unlike ours. It has no germs. The penis has another purpose as well, obviously to release the sperm, which we are regulating with the testes out in the hot weather and up against the body in colds. Very, very good. And obviously the sperm to the doe's vagina. Dun, 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 dun. Obviously, they are, the testicles, they're elongated pink sacs. Yeah. Well, then again, okay. Not everybody's testicles, males, are pink. Matter of fact, I don't think any humans is pink, but the rabbits are. And, they stop falling too, just like humans when they get older. So don't think that you're the only people or the only one that has problems with their testicles falling. So, and that you generally, believe it or not, their testicles are not even visible till about 2 or more months of age, where everything else you can basically tell if it's male or female. And really, the first appearance varies, and it's depending on the sexual maturity of the buck and the temperature. So, I'm assuming that if we are in hot weather, like the summer, that they will come out faster than if it was in the cold weather. Interesting. Now, the female's vagina. See, are you finding a pattern here? They kind of mimic human. I mean, generally when we're talking about animals or whatever, they're reproductive. We usually talk about it in relation to just reproductive organs. However, rabbits were actually referring to their sexual organs as the penis, the vagina, the testicles, which is quite interesting in and of itself. Obviously, the female sexual organs are next. It's like a slit. It looks similar, believe it or not, to the penis when you push down in order to identify it. A little bit of difference there here. Okay, a lot of difference. Yeah. It can be easily distinguished from the penis because a penis does not normally have a slit. That's, one of the big differences. And this is a rare circumstance where the rabbit penises do have a slit. Obviously, the vagina also normally has visible blood vessels running down each side of the inside of the slit. The purpose of the vagina, just like with humans, is to receive the sperm from the buck. Obviously, to produce little bunnies. Birth canal, all that good stuff. You know how it goes. I love how they say it, where bunnies are born. The vaginal birth canal. Duh. Obviously, she houses her urinary tract opening toward the front of the slit, which allows her to urinate pee, which is pretty much like the human female. There's a pattern here. Now, there is what is known as the vent area on rabbits. This is a general area that includes the sex organs and the anus. So, turning the little bunny upside down, rubbing their tummy, whatever it does for them to open up their tum-tum so you can see. A lot of little pictures out there if you want to go on to Google and look. Completely up to you. And that's really how you're sexing little animals that are having so much sex. But don't you feel that much smarter? Just like humans, for the most part. It's not, a lot of things are related to rabbits when it comes to humans, for the most part. So why not be able to associate them bisexual organs as well? Because that's what it is. Now, what are their sex-specific behaviors? Obviously, this is where their more animal nature comes in. Now, there are men out there who will mock their territories, which are human, which most females do not like. But for rabbits, obviously, scent marking behaviors as usual, spraying urine on other rabbits, but they will also spray people, believe it or not. And obviously inanimate objects. The little, what's the other thing that rabbits do that we talk about? Little rabbit pellet poos all over the place, because this is their way of marking their territory. There's also courtship behaviors, which is, they circle around people or rabbits and make a humming sound. So, if you have a rabbit and it's circling you, humming, it likes you. You might want to, it might jump you and hump you. Who's to say? Now, the mating behaviors, mounting rabbits or people. I think I just hit that one on the nose. So our little rabbit friends there will hump on people and rabbits because they are sexually attracted to it, because they are so similar. And, there's usually these sex-specific behaviors usually start early in life, as I said earlier, and a little bit more into it. And they start at puberty. Their puberty is different than ours, although you've got to think about it. When kids are little, even though they do not know what sexuality is, especially with little boys, if they see a girl that they like, it's an uncontrollable erection from them. They don't know what it means. So you can't really, like yell on them for it. They don't know what it is. They're too young. It's just part of normal body, human nature behavior. So when you're looking at that, most people know that. Don't make fun of them. Now, when, there's the rabbits' sexual specific behavior start at puberty, like with everybody else. The testicles of the male rabbits descend around 10 to 12 weeks of age. Wicked young. Female rabbits reach sexual maturity around a month after males, and both sexes start to show sexual behaviors. What drives it? Hey, just like humans, sex hormones, theirs is estrogen and testosterone. We have estrogen and testosterone. I guess estrogen is for them. I'm probably even saying it wrong. Who's to say? When an animal basically reaches puberty, the of the brain, the hypothalamus. Oh boy, there's that one time that I'm like stuttering out my words. It has been a very long and enjoyable day. It actually starts producing more of a hormone called the gonadotrophin. So gonad, which is the sexual glands and all that good stuff. And they are releasing these hormones. And a lot of it. So they tell another part of the brain, the pituitary gland. That pituitary gland has a lot of work. To release those hormones, and then they act on the ovaries and the testes, which are the gonads. And a lot of people know, especially when it comes to sex, the human anatomy, when it comes to that. I believe if you go out to a bunch of people and you say those two names, gonads, they know exactly what they are. You don't have to explain it to them. Obviously, these hormones are overly produced. And they are, believe it or not, rabbits are seasonal breeders, unlike the human race. When they get longer and when the days get longer in spring, their brains start to produce this hormone more. And this seasonal rhythm drives seasonal sexual behaviors. So they have a lot of sex during spring. And when does Easter come? It comes in the beginning of spring. So all those bunnies out there getting eggs. Think about it. On that note, I am going to take a break in the show because I am just talking away here. Please, completely up to you. You want to replenish your drink, replenish your snack, please do so. But do come back, get relaxed, because I will meet you back here for more rabbit sex talk with Andra.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back. Now we are talking about Easter and rabbits and sexual and how they're related to the egg, and in regards to all of that, fertility, purity, and all this stuff. Obviously, a Christian holiday, but I'm not getting into religions because sex is for everybody and whoever wants to engage in it, and how we relate the rabbit to the female, the human female. And, rabbit will just hump a human. So remember, and they're in their mating, which is in this time, because spring is now here, is when they're starting their sexual mating in order to make a ton of little kits, which are the little baby rabbits, which are so cute. And what do? We celebrate Easter with an Easter egg hunt. Get it? Eggs, rabbits, hunt, whatever. Okay, let's move along. Now, there might just be something out there. The rabbits hold the key, to solving the mystery of the human female orgasm. Who is to say? There are studies out there that are done. This is on the climax in, human female orgasm. But because we are compared so closely to the little rabbits, that they may just tell us and help us. Now, it is a mystery. Biology's mystery. Actually, sometimes a man's mystery. The female orgasm and how to make her scream. And to have many of them. Unlike men, women can have more than one. Men have a big one, but then usually pass out after. So, and by this, obviously the female orgasm has been studied. It's one of the greatest mysteries. Has been bolstered by research showing that rabbits given antidepressants, believe it or not, poor little bunnies, release fewer eggs during sex. Well, that's one way to cut them down and give it a bunch of babies, but when a drug an animal, how cute is that? Even humans don't want to take drugs, at least mental health drugs, for no apparent reason at all. Even when you are supposed to have them, they don't like taking them. Now, obviously, the female orgasm has been up for quite a lot of debate and a lot of talk. A lot of ways of trying to figure out how to have a better one, how to hit that spot and hit it right. Obviously, it is being pleasured, but in the ways of making babies, I guess, if you want to put it there, and if that is what your goal is, make sure that you and your partner are ready, because having a baby takes responsibility. Now, there are studies out there, like I said, where they have previously proposed it might have its evolutionary roots in reflex linked to the release of eggs during sex. Wow, what a way to put down the female orgasm and really put the scare factor in there. Obviously, this is something that is in several animal species. And this, rabbit not being the only one, but rabbits are, shall I say, at the top of that list. Because females have like that spontaneous ovulation, so doesn't a rabbit. There is a theory that goes with it that female orgasms may be an evolutionary hangover. Oh, that just downgraded the orgasm. Now, there are experiments out that they're trying, and because they know there is a reflex in rabbits, but they don't know if this could be the same one that has lost the function in humans. Because they drug the rabbit, they're wondering if that is the same thing with females and their orgasms. Now, yes, drugs and alcohol do affect your sexual encounters. It's not an unknown fact. However, it is not wise, and please always have consent if you are going to do something. It isn't go out there and get someone drugged. Drugging your partner or date rape is against the law, and you will be caught, believe it or not. I know it's kind of hard, and a lot of proving's got to get into that, but nowadays they're buckling down. Now, this study actually took 12 female rabbits and gave them a 2-week course of fluoxetine, which is actually Prozac, and which is an antidepressant. Everybody knows that. Which it reduced the capacity for women, which it does. Like I said, most drugs have an effect on your sexual performance. This one has a capacity to reduce women to orgasm. Not something you'd like to hear, I'm assured. And then, they looked at the release of eggs after the animals had sex or the females had sex. And pretty much came out with that, rabbits, if they were given the antidepressants, which they were in this study, released 30% fewer eggs than 9 rabbits that were not given Prozac, but still mated. Now they have one male rabbit. His name was Frank, and he was having a lot of fun because he was just having all the girls. It was one male to all these female rabbits. He didn't have to worry about fighting off anybody. Now, obviously, the more they studied, the more they found that the drug was affecting ovulation. And, this is through a mechanism which involved copulation and entailing the nervous system. And generally, antidepressants and related drugs like that do affect your neurological pathways. Now, I know some people who get prescribed, gabapentin now for neurological disorders, for pain, because they found that not only does it work on mental health, it also works on that. It is a very strong drug, so I wouldn't just go out there and say, oh, geez, give me some. Got to think about it. And it really actually was just hitting on those nervous system, not directly on the ovaries or any other way into the female's ability to ovulate or to have an orgasm. But remember, there are a lot of nerves that go into sexual pleasure, and rabbits like a lot of foreplay. So don't humans. So you want to get that woman as wet as possible. Now, Rabbits, they found that the rabbits needed to experience something akin to an orgasm to have a hormonal surge and ovulate when, they were given these drugs. And it's not, they didn't figure out if it gives the animal sexual pleasure. They just knew that they had to be, have an orgasm in order to have that hormonal surge when given the drug. They also found that animals rely on sex-induced hormonal surges for ovulation. And they found this mainly in humans who have a clitoris. Ding, ding, ding. Females, hello. Which is the organ behind the female orgasm. You play with that, and you play nice, it will give you what you want. Now, in a position, that meant it was more likely to be stimulated during sex. You change positions so you can stimulate the clitoris so that you can get an orgasm. Those little rabbits. Ugh. There are two sides to the little rabbits. They're, at one point, Easter bunnies, everything that goes along with it, that history. It seems so nice and so innocent, but then the reality is it's really sexual and it has a lot to do with the female orgasm and everything else. So, they really didn't know how, this study showed that they really didn't know how the Prozac affected the reflex in rabbits, and that they obviously had to do a little bit more. Heaven only knows when they did that. But it was an important question as to why the orgasm was still there. Doing the study on rabbits, kind of sort of came out to show that you still got an orgasm, which really stimulated that hormonal surge when you're being basically, suppressed. There's the word, suppressed by the drug, but still was able to get an orgasm. And they figured something else must be working in there where the orgasm is still able to be reached by females. And it is what it is. You can't stop it. You can probably suppress it, but those little nerves that are there you're going to stimulate them. And when you stimulate them, what happens? You're going to hit a climax. You're going to get that orgasm. You're going to be rut that, as long as you're hitting that right spot, there you go. You're working those muscles. You're working those nerves. And you get all of that. So this study actually just proved that regardless of the fact that they were being, their ovaries and the egg production was being suppressed by that percentage of 30%, as long as, they get that orgasm and have that hormonal surge, you were still getting the production. So, which is pretty good. That means that the female still can do it. Men, on the other hand, so sorry. Heaven only knows. I know a lot of medications affect you. And down he goes. sexual performance kind of sort of goes out the window. So sorry. On that note, I am going to take the final break in the show where you can just sit and relax and think about how a rabbit's going at it and what you want to do in the meantime. You can also get up and take a toilet break or get something else to eat and drink, completely up to you, but do remain comfortable and finish what you were doing, because you need that Easter celebration for you too, some little adult time there. And I will meet you back here for more Sex Talk with Andra, where the topic is about the Easter Bunny and sex.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back to the final portion of today's show, where our topic is Easter. And we don't mean the nice little cuddly nice Easter egg hunts. We're talking about our rabbits and their sexual habits, and sex and how it relates to Easter, and rabbits and all that good stuff in there, which most people know. Now, when I was going through this and, did a little talk about research and little studies that were out there, were on rabbits and how it relates to the female orgasm, like the human female orgasm, because they are so close. We came up, there are a lot of slangs out there for the female genitals. And one thing that kind of stuck out with me is the word cunny. Now, it is considered a vulgar slang word. It's not like the see you next Tuesday, but it was brought out to rhyme with the word bunny. See where I'm going with this? And it is a woman's genitals. And, just in women in general, considered sexually. Then as you go on and you find out what cunny houses is, it's funny, and cunny warrants. Now, these were brothels where obviously the workers, quote unquote, the females, and their customers were at it like rabbits. So this was a way of naming it and trying to go around with it sounding vulgar or offensive. So they just rhymed it with the word bunny. But they also have coney as it relates to a bony. So I think that's where the men come in on this one. if there's one for the female, there's got to be one for the male. But trying to be nice about it. And, this word is actually in the dictionary. To go even further, obviously, another word for a woman's sexual organs derived from the word, and I'm not saying it, I'll just see you next Tuesday. It's supposed to be used in a positive and affectionate, believe it or not, way. Interesting, because I can't see where that one would come in as a positive word. Well, they use it in compared to the word of that, which is used as an insult and considered offensive. Okay, I'll give it to you. It's supposed to sound nicer, kinda, sorta, but if you put it into a sentence and you're asking for it, doesn't exactly sound that much different, and it doesn't mean anything less than being offensive. Interesting enough. Now, the origin of this word obviously had to deal with bunnies and how it's rhymed with bunny. It would obviously they have things that run under this as well, which is really funny because it says peg. Male partner with a dildo, and they actually tell you to see wedge. Okay, that one's a new one. And it's actually compared to the Latin cunius, cone. And then it comes and it goes down to cunny. Obviously, this goes back very far. And depending on how you're using it, I mean, don't be offensive to your female. Especially if you want sex, because you're not going to get it. So, yeah, you're not going to win with that one, sorry. Why are rabbits that sexualized? Because they are. They become more, and I don't mean the Playboy bunnies. I mean, two sweet bunnies. So those of you who are actually, raising them, so sorry if I put a tilt on the all cute appearance and lovability of little bunny. I love bunnies, so I think they're cute. Don't think that I think anything less of them. They're nice, but it will make you look again at what they're doing and how they are doing it. Because if they're humming and hopping around you, they like you and they want to jump your bones. So, must think about that. Still trying to figure out how they do it, but hey. I mean, come on. You got that big tail in the way. Two dogs, you see them out there, they're backwards with each other, and you get some water to separate them. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. And I wouldn't even know where to begin. So, on that note, let's move along with our little bunnies and their sexual connection to the human race and all of that good stuff. Because when it comes to their sex, hey, they have the usual sexual behaviors where they run around you and mock you or mock their territory. But they also, the male, they'll usually when they're mocking their territory and their female, this involves like passing over her chin and sometimes urinating on her a little. So if you want to look at the golden shower as a mocking in regards to this, oh, then there you go. Again, they have their own, what are they called? Events out there that have to do with urinating during sex, which is total turn on to some people. And more power to you. Now, if the male does do this and catches that female bunny's eye, if the female is receptive to this, she will lie down for the male and encourage him to mount her. Lovely, lovely. Showing her cunning. If she's not receptive, well, I can't help you with that one. Because she just may run away from you. The other bunny, the male bunny, even display a little bit of aggression. So, really, really, really not a good thing. But, again, they do have a lot of sex. They can have multiple, fertilizations of eggs, which actually comes into play where they have large litters, and you gotta give it to them because, you hear nowadays when people are doing, in vitro fertilization and stuff like that, and they just want one baby, and then they'll come up with 8, and all the multiple births that have been in the news. It is a miracle. A female's body is just a miracle within itself for what it can do. And having respect for that is really amazing because, guys, all you gotta do is stick it in, have fun, get your thrill off. The female carries the baby, her body stretches. And just that miracle alone to carry one, being able to carry more than one is quite amazing. So, rabbits are showing you how to do it and how it's being done. And they do have some sort of link to the female orgasm as shown in scientific studies. There are some issues when it comes to bunnies. If really when it comes to the domesticated rabbits, obviously the ones that are raised with humans in a pen and all that good stuff, their mating habits can be disrupted, because they're not in their natural habitat. If you keep rabbits together, you want to keep them alive and healthy, obviously, if you are keeping them in a cage. Rabbit pregnancy does put a strain on resources. It makes this really difficult for them. You don't ever want to hurt the bunny, but they are amazing creatures, just like females, because they're basically, they have a vagina, they have clitoris, the men have a penis and testicles, the males, and the thing is that, they got a little bit, they can go out and just show off their testicles and not have a problem. Because they have to maintain a particular temperature. So they can put those out and bring them in when they want to. And I know you're a little jealous, my male counterparts, but hey, somebody, that does not mean, and that's not to say that there are men that go out there in a Speedo or wear those pants that are way too tight and just outline everything that is there. Yes, the women do it too, but I think men kind of like that. But remember, it is Easter, so think like rabbits. Get a rabbit vibrator. Have fun like rabbits. Easter is all about the rabbits and the eggs and how it relates to the purity and the fertility of the female. And whenever you think about it, or you even hear the word bunny, everybody's head immediately goes to how rabbits have sex and how they do it an awful lot. Well, you need to remember, they have it at a very young age because they reach sexual maturity pretty darn fast and are capable of having numerous sexual encounters where they are ovulating and producing a heck of a lot of eggs to have a bunch of little kits and multiple little pregnancies there with large litters. So remember that as well. But do remember that rabbits are linked just like and have given us insight to the female orgasm, which is what the goal is. Hey, again, females can have more than one orgasm, man. Yeah, you need a breaking point in between. So, no need to be jealous, but you do enjoy having, or whatever partner out there loves seeing your female get off. So enjoy that on your Easter. And I hope, you probably already did, shall I say. Because on that note, I am at the end of my show for today. And we did talk about the bunnies and Easters and history and how it relates to sex, which is all fun. As always, please practice safe sex, if not for yourself, for your partner and vice versa. If you are going to try something new in the sexual bed or some sexual position, please educate, communicate, and consent between you two or whoever else you're going to be with. So, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Sex Podcast, which is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I do ask that you please subscribe to the show. Give us 5 stars and give us positive feedback. Also, because it helps me and it helps the GSMC Podcast Network to know that they're bringing what you want to hear. Also, please seek us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram because we are there too. Hit that little thumbs up, give us some liking. Also, or click onto that little heart, show us some love, write a comment. Put something in there, something that you'd like to hear discussed on the show. On that note, please again, I hope you have or are having an awesome Easter and awesome Easter sex. We're looking forward to some. So, bye-bye for now. Until next time, for more Sex Talk with Andra.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.